The premise of my culminating experience rests on the idea of life as a journey through which we learn to actualize our gifts. On this journey or quest for being fully alive, we receive guidance, go through struggles, and join forces with others. The process which we evolve is not straightforward. Many of life's experiences can be transformed through music, where fiction and magic, politics and dreams, visions and struggles come together. Music can become the lens in which to see the world, clear the path, and convey a message. The plan for this culminating experience was to create a superhero graphic novel, with each chapter of the novel to be interpreted by musical compositions and as well as improvisations based on the compositions. I bring together South African music, Indian classical music, as well as jazz. My musical explorations of the particular themes in my thesis are strongly influenced by Wayne Shorter's zero gravity approach. This has been taught to us by the members of his quartet, Danila Perez, John Patitucci, as well as special guest Brian Blade. The band I have chosen to perform this was Edmar Colon on saxophone, Witness Matlau on piano, Singho Yang on bass, and obviously myself, Kesivan Naidoo, on drums. The four of us become musical narrators, weaving the story together. Each tune we allow ourselves to get lost and find each other again. But each piece allows the musical character to develop and transform. The beauty of realizing this project was to let go of pre-formed expectations and create music in the moment collectively, calling each artist to contribute equally and lend himself to the spirit of the moment. Wayne Shorter and Herbie Hancock recently stated, "Art in any form is a medium for dialogue, which is a powerful tool. It is time for the music world to produce sound stories that ignite dialogue about the mystery of us." So the bigger message I want to convey in this work is our ability to find the spirits for life, to be fully alive, and to realize ourselves by realizing our gifts. I know that there are bad forces that bring suffering to others and misery to the world. But I want to be the opposite force. I want to be a force for which is truly good. Here the main character, I call him Jack, is introduced. Jack has a terminal illness and the doctors are not able to figure out what it is, let alone find a cure. He sets out on his last journey and takes the train up a mountain, Table Mountain perhaps, and finds himself between the real world and the dream world. As he falls asleep on the train, all pain vanishes for a moment and a beautiful magical being appears in his dream. Though, when he wakes up, he realizes that he's still ill. Here the train is metaphorical, and in the sense that Jack is on a journey. The next piece is called Eclipse, and the theme of this piece is love. Slowly, Jack steps into the blazing sun and continues his journey upwards through the woods until finally, when the sun is already gone down, he reaches a plateau, a clearing from which he can oversee the city. He is ready to give up, ready to die. It is only then when he realizes that this is the night of the alignment, the balance of the cosmos, the sun and the moon in magical embrace. There, in some distance, is a strange being. She appears light-footed, almost floating as if the waves that carried her up the mountain. His personal crisis represents a crisis in the spiritual world. The dark forces have captured the Dreamweaver and have put a spell on all of humankind. Nobody has yet been able to find him, and thus for the past 5,000 years, the dark forces have taken over, and humans have been lying under the spell. The Dreamweaver is the master of the dreams and the one who brings balance to the dream world. Without him, humans are not able to be fully alive and are doomed to walk the earth in a zombie-like existence. This is why there is so much greed in the real world. It was during a hike up Table Mountain during an actual eclipse when the melody and the scale of this part of the story came to me. The story is also inspired by the Hindu mythology and idea of the 4 ages. According to them, we now live in the age of Kali Yuga, a dark age. The theme is longing for healing through love. The tune is based on a melody and a bass line that I composed during that night of the eclipse in Cape Town. I've been following Wayne Shorter's quartet ever since I'd seen them live in 2002. I had never seen a jazz quartet approach music like this before. The way they played Wayne's compositions in a very experimental and explorative way, but maintaining the journey, getting lost and finding each other again. This inspired me. The piece is mostly rooted to a D-flat pedal, which some people believe is the frequency in which the earth is moving around the sun, which is why, for instance, the sitar is rooted in D-flat. But in the end, it is also hopeful, and this is significant because our protagonist has found his purpose.
I have fought against white domination. And I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunity. It is an idea which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be,
Jack is now awakened and knows what he needs to do. He's on his way to training. He is inspired, in love, and guided. He's fighting for humankind. This piece is very personal for me because it has the sample of the very first speech of Nelson Mandela after he was released from prison at the Cape Town City Hall in 1990. I remember watching him with my entire family. Everybody was extremely emotional that day. I realized what it meant for him to be free, but more importantly, it meant that we were all going to be free as well.
Our struggle has reached a decisive moment. We call on our people to seize this moment so that the process towards democracy is rapid and uninterrupted. We have waited too long for our freedom. We can no longer wait. Now is the time to intensify the struggle on all fronts.
The music is deeply inspired by the political trauma in South Africa, which has affected my family and many South Africans. One of my uncles, Marcus Solomon, was in prison with Nelson Mandela from 1964 to 1974. Many of my family members dedicated their lives to the anti-apartheid activism. From a very early age, this has instilled in me a deep awareness of the social injustice in my country and the struggles it takes to overcome it. Therefore, to see music as a tool to create awareness and ultimately social change is dear to me. It was amazing for me to discover that when this tune is played at a certain tempo, the rhythm of Mandela's speaking fits perfectly with the groove of the Toy Toy.
To relax our efforts now would be a mistake which generations to come will not be able to forgive.
The woman from the dream world tells Jack to go and find the masters and gives him instructions on where to find them. The hero finds his teachers as foretold. Again, I was experimenting with scales on the piano and I started to see the symmetrical shapes on 4 notes from C to F sharp, semitone, tone and minor third, which repeats from G to C sharp. The tune is based on a raga, which is challenging to play with tricky twists and turns. It is almost a blues scale at the same time. Raga Todi, which this is based on, is a morning raga, and to keep with the spirit of the tradition, we played it during the morning recording sessions, which is when it is most inspired. Personal memories were very present as my grandmother passed away during the time I worked on this project. She was my first master, showing me how to navigate the muddled waters of life gracefully. In this sense, the piece draws from the lessons I have learned in all stages and realms of life, and is dedicated to all my teachers. Religion is the final lesson Jack learns. Here the message is that we are all connected. We are all the same and from the same elements. This is a composition by Carlo Mambelli, which I arranged. In this arrangement, we morph the improvisation to a sampled loop of the Lacrimosa section of Mozart's Requiem. It is layered by the piano and bass, who play the same sequence of notes at different times, which form canonic harmonies. This provides a platform for conversation between the saxophone and the drums, but with Mozart's sample in mind. The tune Religion invokes that, the letting go in order to embrace life and our ability to be transformed while staying true to who we are. In this chapter, Jack makes contact with many different creatures from the other world he is sent to. The hero has now realized his powers and is on his way to saving the Dreamweaver. There are spaces and places he has to navigate, beings he meets, and even battles he has to fight, and he reaches the other side, getting lost, and then all of a sudden finds his way again. The idea was originally inspired by Alexander Scriabin. I remember listening to his big works like Tone Poem and Prometheus, and what I've noticed, which is a common practice I suppose in many classical music, is he takes simple themes and throws them around the orchestra in different ways. I took this simple idea from him and used this 5-note melody to explore what different colors and moods it brings out. Equipped with these tools, the character can go into the dream world and get as lost as he wants to, have confrontations with the dark side, and still be safe because he has the anchor of these 5 magical notes. Eventually, at the end, we attempt again the zero gravity concept by letting go of the 3/4 but finding our way back. This chapter represents the hero's awakening. This is the last battle on his mission, and he's finally freeing the Dreamweaver. and the final realization comes to him. He himself is the Dreamweaver. He has found and freed himself and has come full circle. Jack has accomplished his mission, found the treasures, freed himself and humankind, and can go back home to connect with his long lost love. I played the piano one night, and when I was playing around with this chord, all of a sudden the tune developed. Later on, I learned that it was based on a raga called Charukeshi, the actual Dreamweaver or god of the Hindu culture. It was also inspired by a jam with a guitarist friend from Norway, Peter Norling. He told me that the open D string on the guitar has this magical sound. Then I started enjoying this D dominant 7 sound, but it had a flat 6 in it, and somehow I had a very emotional feeling, or maybe a magical feeling from it. At the end, I believe we found that balance, and this represents the beautiful process which the band went through in the course of creating and recording this music. The way in which the band got to the ending happened completely in the moment and created a magical presence in which we found this free spirit of creating music together. The end.